What's up, you handsome devils? Welcome back to another edition of converting my actual book into an audio book. And before we get into the story, I just want to share this real quick. I was a little unsure if I wanted to post this particular chapter just because a lot of my stories in my book, like a lot of my videos, are fun. And, it's all about making jokes and making people laugh. And that's all well and good. But this particular story focuses a little more on the plight of the Uber driver, on the struggle of getting by. I think a lot of people might look at this story as like a little depressing. Me personally, I think it's encouraging. I think that the whole point of life, I heard Jerry Seinfeld talking recently, it's like you want to do something hard. He went into stand-up comedy because he knew he wanted to do something hard. I think what a lot of people don't realize in this dopamine rush-filled culture that we lived in is like the struggle is good. You just got to find something that even when it's hard and even when it's discouraging and even when you feel like there's no way out, that you still enjoy doing and you're still willing to do. I think the struggle gets a bad rap. At the end of the day, put it like this. Would you rather watch your team win 100-0, or would you rather watch your team come from behind, 20 points behind in the fourth quarter and hit a game-winning shot and barely win by the skin of their teeth? It's so much more fun when there's a struggle. So anyway, I guess I just kind of wanted to frame this story as remember, there's beauty in the struggle, and it's a good thing. I'm glad that this story happened to me.
Chapter 24, A Rich Man's Date Night. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's like your finances are a beach ball that you're trying to keep up in the air, doing everything you can to keep that ball from hitting the ground. For me, there was nothing more indicative of how close that ball was to hitting the ground than when I had to work Uber on a weeknight. At times, the earnings were so low that after taking into account gas and wear and tear on the car, I was barely breaking even. But that didn't matter because I could put those expenses on a credit card and pay them next month. I needed cash now. Little side note, if you involuntarily heard the J.G. Wentworth jingle in your head when you heard that I need cash now, I apologize. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I implore you, do not search J.G. Wentworth jingle unless you want the catchiest song to play in your head every time you hear someone say they need cash now. So anyway, during a particularly tight month, I found myself working on a cold, rainy Tuesday night. I got an Uber request to a big house on a big piece of land in a wealthy Philadelphia suburb. A sophisticated-looking, middle-aged man that we'll call Country Club hobbled to my car in a way that made me think he was either injured or drunk. It didn't take me long to realize it was the latter. "Get me the fuck out of here," he said, heading to the Riddle Ale House. "Yeah, I'm just going to run in and grab a few beers. Would you be able to drop me off at my girlfriend's after? It's right up the street." "Sorry, man, if it's not on the app, I can't take you anywhere else." This dance was all but too familiar with me at this point. This would be the part where he would offer me cash. "It's right up the road. I'll throw you an extra couple bucks." "Sounds good to me." "Thank God. First thing to go my way all night," he said. "Do you ever give out your number? That way in the future I can just pay you off the app." As I gave him my digits, we passed by an upscale Italian restaurant. "You ever eat there?" he asked. "I have not." "I was just there tonight. The food was great. If I wasn't there with my wife, I might have actually enjoyed it." I'm not sure if you, dear listener, picked up on what he just admitted, but as a driver, every little piece of information is retained and analyzed in hopes of understanding who the hell is sitting behind me. It's the never-ending subconscious process of assessing the likelihood of that stranger stabbing you in the neck. It's a rare thing, especially after driving so long and seeing so many different walks of life, to be surprised by a rider's revelation. But I didn't expect this out of a wealthy, put-together, older man with a huge beer belly. When I pieced together the disconnect of dinner with the wife and drinks with the girlfriend, I tried my best to conceal my surprise, but my eyebrows raised like a knee-jerk's when the doctor hits it with a hammer. Now, I'm not a sheltered man. I know how the world works. I know people do this every day, and I know I don't know the whole story. Thing is, it wasn't the adultery that threw me off. It's that he was so nonchalant about it. I don't condone cheating, but if you're going to cheat, don't flaunt it in a way that reminds others of the sad realities of the world. Do it in silence and shame and with a crippling guilt like a respectable adult. Fortunately, he was either too drunk or too excited to pick up on my discomfort. "What's your deal?" he asked. "You married? Kids?" "Neither nor." "Don't ever fucking do it. It's the end of your life." "Thanks for the tip." "Listen, when we get to the ale house, end the trip there. I'll grab some beers, then she's like 2 minutes up the road. I'll throw you an extra $20. "All right." "You gotta end the trip when we get there, though." "Okay." One of my favorite quotes is, "A thief thinks everyone steals." That's to say, you see the world the way that you operate in the world. And because I was operating under incredible financial stress, I assumed that he wanted me to end the trip because he didn't want to keep getting charged on the Uber app when he was paying for the rest of the trip in cash. I thought it was just another example of how funny people can be with money. This guy just left a house that could cover a small city block after eating a dinner that cost more than what I would earn all night and just offered me a 5-minute job that translates to $240 an hour. And he's worried about what would be approximately $3 extra if I left the app running? While irrational spending is certainly a common habit among us all, it turns out that when you aren't consumed with keeping that financial beach ball afloat, you see the world in ways that don't involve accounting for every nickel and dime. Before this ride was over, I would learn that turning off the app was one of the most rational requests I ever got from an Uber rider. As Country Club lumbered out of the car and stumbled into the ale house, I wondered if the ethical implications of this ride was enough for me to drive away, leaving him there stranded. In other words, is it wrong to bring a married man to his mistress? I know I'm not responsible for the actions of my riders, but at what point am I culpable? I mean, when I drive people to the bar, it's not my fault they get drunk, right? But what if I was driving a guy who was blackout drunk to a parking garage to pick up his car so he could drive home? Should I try to dissuade him from making that choice, but ultimately leave the decision to him? Or should I physically prevent him from getting behind the wheel? I'm inclined to say each person is entitled to make their own decisions, and it's not anyone else's place, especially a lowly Uber driver, to say what is right for them. Shut up and drive kind of thing. But there's definitely an argument against that. Say I was driving 2 kids to high school wearing trench coats and carrying duffel bags, and I overheard them discussing their sinister plans of what they wanted to do when they got to the school. I don't think it would be right for me to complete that trip, you know? So we can all agree that there's a line, but what is that line? Does it have to do with people getting hurt? I mean, I'm sure this guy's wife and kids would be hurt if they found out, but then again, that hurt comes from them finding out and not me taking him to his girlfriend. I wondered, too, how much of my internal debate was swayed by the fact that I simply didn't like the guy. He seemed like the kind of person that joins a country club just so he can tell people he belongs. I wondered how much of my personal dislike for this guy weighed in on this moral dilemma of finishing the trip, as I didn't want to be around him anymore, let alone help him do something that he enjoys and makes me feel bad. But as much as I entertained the idea of leaving him at the alehouse, I knew it would do nothing but delay his conquest and hurt my much-needed bottom dollar. That's the thing about taking principled stands. The more money you have, the more morals you can afford. And I was not in a place financially where I could prioritize my morality over my bills. The door to the alehouse swings back open and he stepped outside, stopping and smiling, holding up the 12-pack of beer for me to see, as if we were buddies in this together. He moved toward my car, and I don't know if he was so drunk that he slipped or forgot about the small steps that led into the door he just came out of, but his foot kicked out from under him as if he was a cartoon character stepping on a banana peel. Foregoing his own personal safety, Country Club secured the beer first, clearly a man with priorities, tucking it like a football before shooting out his other arm for the handrail in hopes of staying afoot. But it was too late. This well-groomed member of high society was going down, and going down hard. If it wasn't for the handrail he had bounced off of, he could have very well cracked his skull on the cement steps. He rolled around for a moment on the ground, looking like a drunken seal in a sweater vest. I thought about getting out to help him, but once I knew he wasn't seriously injured, I let him fend for himself and chalked up his fall as karma. When he finally got up, he played it off with a goofy smile and shrug that made me incredibly embarrassed for him and for myself for being at a stage in my life where I needed his $20. "It's freezing out there," he said when he got back in, not acknowledging his fall. "You're going to have to let me know where to go." "I got it right here. Hold on." He looked at his phone. 123 West 2nd Street. He wasn't kidding. It really was right up the street. I got out of that parking lot and fast. I was so ready to be done with this guy. "You ended the trip on the app, right?" "Sure did." This guy and his fucking money, I thought. Good. Sometimes the wife checks my Uber account. I could feel the anger showing on my face, but I didn't even try to hide it this time. It pissed me off that this guy was using me to cheat on his wife. And it pissed me off even more that he was bragging about it. But what pissed me off most was how naive I was to think he wanted me to end the trip to save a couple bucks. Of course he didn't care about the money, I thought to myself. That's only something a poor schmuck like you would stress about. We pulled into a driveway, and the lights in the house are all off. "Is this it?" he asked. "This is the address you gave me." "Give me 1 second. Let me call her." I can hear it ringing, but it goes to voicemail. "Sorry, man. You gotta go. I've actually never been here before. Could you just hang here for a second and make sure I get in?" "Sorry, I already have another request." I lied. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. He looked at the house and then back to me. "All right," he said, and got out. I was out of that driveway before he even got to the porch. Within a minute, though, he was calling me. I should have never given him my number, I thought. I hit the decline button. I wanted to be done with this guy. But he called again, and I declined again. When he called a third time, I figured something had to be up, so I answered. "Hello?" "You've gotta help me," this grown-ass man said in a drunken whine. He sounded so desperate, I thought he was on the verge of tears. "I put the wrong address in. It's freezing out here. You have to come get me. Please, please." "I'm sorry, sir. I have another ride. You just order another Uber." "I can't." "Oh, that's right. You can't. My, oh my, how the turntables turn. Please, I'm begging you." In retrospect, I should have extorted this guy for all the cash in his wallet. But it's a weird thing. As badly as I needed money and as much as I didn't like him, when you hear someone in physical and immediate pain, unless you're an actual psychopath, it changes things. It felt more wrong to let him freeze than to facilitate his cheating. "Stay right there. I'll be there in a minute." I wasn't happy when I turned my car around, but the silver lining of it was that I was finally able to use my psychology degree in a real-life scenario, applying Maslow's hierarchy of needs to a moral dilemma I faced as I chauffeured wealthy adulterers from beer stores to their whores. Sure glad I decided to major in that. "Thank God," he said when he got back in. It was freezing out there. "So where are we heading?" "I don't know. Let me try her again." He took out his phone, and though I wasn't able to hear her end of the following conversation, it seemed easy enough to fill in the blanks. "Hey, babe, I thought I was out front, but it wasn't your place." "Whose place was it?" "I don't know, but they sure weren't happy when they answered the door." "What address did you put in?" 123 West 2nd Street. East 2nd Street." "Oh, got it. I'll be there soon," he said, hanging up the phone. "It's East 2nd Street," he said to me. "Sorry about that. This is my first time at her place. She said she was tired of doing that hotel shit. Anyway, you think I can call you later for a ride home?" There was no way I was going to subject myself to this guy and his shenanigans again, but there was no need to tell him that. Instead, I said, "I doubt I'll be in the area, but you can try." I like to think I'm being mature by avoiding unnecessary confrontation, but there's a part of me that wonders if I'm too nice. So compliant that this guy I can't stand has every reason to think he is welcome to give me a call later for another ride. In other words, part of me feels like a little Uber bitch. We pull up to her actual place in no time. It's a walk-up apartment on the back side of a residential house. It made me think it was the kind of place a divorcee would move to after her kids have moved out. She was waiting at the door with the light on and opened it to wave when we pulled up. She looked like someone who was very good-looking in high school and was fighting hard against Father Time with an arsenal of makeup, bleached blonde hair, and a very perky and very obvious addition. "Check out those fucking tits," he said as he peeled off a couple more bucks for me. As I watched him walk into that house, I didn't wonder how he slept at night because I knew the answer. It was either in a huge house or next to some huge boobs. What I wondered was if my approach to life has been wrong this entire time. Here I am, chasing down a dream, trying to live a life that I can be proud of, but look where that's gotten me. It got me stuck working on a Tuesday night just to keep that beach ball from hitting the ground. Meanwhile, this guy conducts himself like a total scumbag, and the universe seems to reward him for it. Shoot, even the fact that he has a girlfriend speaks to the way the world works. After all, Miss Lewinsky didn't ruin a perfectly good blue dress for the help, did she? I thought about all the dates I lost when they found out I drive for Uber, and all the snarky comments I've gotten from strangers and passengers for working such a shit job, and even the friends and family that judged me for my position in life. I wish they could have seen this interaction. Sure, I bet if life was a scoreboard, most of those people would put the Uber driver at 0 and the guy with a big house and fancy dinners far ahead. But here that guy was, creeping around, drunk at night, literally falling over himself, whining and crying, and depending on me to save him. So who knows? Maybe I am a sucker. Maybe I am behind on the scoreboard of life, and maybe I'll never get ahead. But at least I'm not him. As I continued the grind of keeping that beach ball off the ground, I sat in the very real possibility that this life might not pan out for me the way I hoped, that my dreams would amount to nothing but a struggle to get by, and I wondered if I would be okay with that. I didn't know if the benefit of enjoying what I do would outweigh the cost that came with it. And I didn't know how long I could last being looked at like I'm the irresponsible one while witnessing firsthand the recklessness of people who meet society's standards of success. Seeing that disconnect is enough to drive a man to cynicism and bitterness, and that's not a fun way to go through life. As I obsessed over these thoughts, one of my favorite songs came on the radio, a song by Zac Brown about how it's the simple things in life that mean the most. One line specifically stood out to me in a way that never had before. "There's no dollar sign on a peace of mind, this I've come to know." I appreciate the sentiment, Zach, I thought out loud in an empty car. But you gotta be rich in the first place to come up with that shit.
Also, the crazy thing is I'm working on a project, one of those earning projects, and ironically enough, just like when I started the story, I literally lost money today driving Uber. So if you're interested in a video like that, make sure to subscribe. It'll be up soon. Thanks for watching.